Hey there, thank you so much for watching. This is episode 4 of the Knitting in the Way podcast, and as the name would imply, this is a video podcast that is primarily about, you guessed it, knitting. Also, you'll see some crochet. Eventually in the year, you're gonna get to see some spinning, and as of late, something I'm super proud of is that you'll get to see some sewing. Yay! Because I'm a newbie sewist. So, my name is Jamie Stevens. I'll put that right there. And you can find me on Ravelry as JMelJ. Also, we'll put that over there. If you prefer Instagram, you can find me on Instagram as Mrs. Jamie Stevens without barking. Because what would an episode be without barking? So, we're gonna jump right in it and get into some finished objects. As you may have noticed, if you've watched the previous episodes, I am wearing a finished epaulette sweater. So sometime during this week, Caitlin Shepard, you will see her release this pattern. So I'm gonna go ahead and stand up and let you guys kind of see it. Really, all the good stuff is on the back. But as you can see, it's got epaulettes up here. And this was one of my very first sewing things. So there are some things that I wish I would have done a little bit differently, but all in all, it came out fine. Elbow patches, thank you guys for weighing in, those of you who did weigh in. And as you can see, those are stitched on there. And I have to tell you, my sewing machine really fought me on those. I think because the sleeves were already in a tube form, and probably it's more ideal to do that flat when you're sewing on a machine. But I don't know what I'm doing, so I just went with it. Luckily, after some major complications in which my husband had to rescue me, I was able to get going on that and finish those sleeves. So thank you everybody who weighed in and let me know that, yeah, it would be really cool to do it as hearts instead of your traditional patches. And speaking of people who weighed in, I totally forgot to thank all the new subscribers. So thank you, new subscribers who will be listed here because you're awesome. Thank you so much. So, getting back to the epaulette sweater, I want to tell you guys just a little bit about how the process was to test knit it. It was my first ever test knit, which was a little bit scary. I felt a little bit of pressure, which I already put pressure on myself anyway, but there was a deadline involved, which not always a bad thing. A deadline helps keep me in check because I can be a little distracted, but I really wanted to make sure that I finished in the time that I said I would, because I felt like the designer really took a chance on me, having not ever test knit anything anywhere before, let alone for her. So I wanted to do that for her. I wanted to get this thing blocked. I wanted to get the patches on, all that good stuff. And here's the funny thing, I don't even know if you actually really need to block acrylic, because yeah, this sweater is knit in 100% acrylic, and sorry, not sorry, because that's how I roll. So yeah, so this sweater is just a bit of a different shape than normally I would pick for myself. If you look at it, it has no waist shaping here. There is some shaping in the arms. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but the arms actually do, since it's knit cuff up, they actually did increase as you went up. But yeah, there's a lot more ease in the body area than I would typically go for in a design, but because it was a test knit, I really didn't want to make any tweaks or changes to it. I really wanted to knit it as close to the pattern as I possibly could. The only thing that I changed just slightly was I lengthened the sleeves just a bit, because I like my sleeves really long. I like to wear them kind of like that. And then of course, by the end of the day, I end up pushing them up anyway. So it's probably a little bit silly, but yeah. So all in all, this is really good knit. I love that the collar is high. That way you can wear this without having to put a shirt under it. And if you've ever worn an acrylic sweater, you know, you don't want to put layers under a plastic sweater. I know, it's terrible. I shouldn't say that, but it's kind of true. So yeah, it's not something, especially being this dense. I think I knit this on maybe 7s. I'll have to go back and check, and if that's wrong, I'll have a note up there about that. But all in all, like I said, this was a great pattern. If you are interested in knitting it, I definitely recommend that you go ahead and purchase that from Plucky Pigeon Knits, aka Caitlin Shepard. Whenever she releases the pattern, like I said, that'll be sometime this week. Maybe it'll be up by the time this podcast is released. Who knows? So as of today, if you don't know, it is MLK Day. So my husband is home, my younger son is home, my older son is off doing older son things. But yeah, it's kind of different to record a podcast with everyone home because my younger son, he loves the Fortnite. So he's up there on Fortnite with his friends talking, and if you hear him, I apologize because it's annoying to even me, but mom life. So we're gonna get into works in progress. Actually, I should back up. I just realized that I had another finished object that I didn't show you. All that's rewound, right? So, finished objects. I'll insert some pictures here of some of the commission knits that I've already sent off to be with their owners or given to their owners, but I wanted to show you one that I haven't sent off yet. So this is just a crocheted infinity scarf. It really isn't anything special, but this is one of my favorite things to make for people. It's relatively quick compared to the other things that I'm usually commissioned to make. And so I love when people order those. And yeah, it's just, as you can see, I did it kind of in a gradient. I'll pop another picture over here just because you might want to see what I'm talking about as I'm talking about it. But yeah, just there's no pattern for it. It's something I just wing every single time. The stitch count's a little bit different. It's not fancy. It's crocheted. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that is it for finished objects. Moving right along, works in progress. So normally I don't show you guys the things that I'm working on for people, but like I said, I think I'm gonna change that, and maybe you wanna see some of that. So the first thing I have to say is last night, Kansas City, all of our hearts collectively broke when we lost to the Patriots in overtime. But we still love our team. We still love our team. So I had already been commissioned to make a Kansas City Chiefs pullover hat, like a beanie, I guess, for a client of mine, and she didn't specify how she wanted it. She just said that she wanted it more masculine because it's for her grown son, which I love it when my clients give me the liberty to do whatever I want. But because she wanted it Chiefs, I was like, there isn't really a Chiefs pattern out there. So my older son got me this knitting graph paper for Christmas. And so this was the first thing I got to do with my graph paper. So as you can see, I made a little chart. If any of you are familiar with the football and the sports, you might know that that little arrowhead is the Kansas City Chiefs logo. I think that's the correct term for it because I'm really not that knowledgeable when it comes to sports. Surprise. But yeah, so I went ahead and charted that up and began working on that this morning. I'm gonna show you, despite my OCD, because the floats are so awful in here, but just so you can see how it's kind of working up so far. I actually cast it on yesterday, and so as you can see, that's the beginning of that arrowhead there. So, and I just did a little edging there in the gold, so it'll be red, gold, white, and black for the Chiefs. So that's one of my works in progress. Another work in progress this week, this stems from me doing a big giant cleanup of my yarn. So I have a lot of yarn, you guys, a lot of yarn. Don't ever ask me to show you because I doubt that will ever happen, but I have a lot of yarn. So I did a little bit of destashing of some of it, but some of it I was like, you know what, it just needs to get knit up and become something. So this here is going to be this is gonna be the coffee shop wrap. So if your retinas are burning right now, I'm so sorry. I know this is a lot of color, and I know I also said that I was gonna only try to knit my colors this year or do projects in my colors, but you guys, this is just a first world problem. I have so much yarn that it just felt irresponsible to not make something out of it. So I have a trip next month next month I'm going down to the Texas area to a, it's a conference. It's a conference for basically a church conference, for lack of a better term. Help to give you ideas of like, I'm a worship leader. I may have said that before anyway at my church, and so it's just a good way to learn what maybe some other churches are doing, how they're doing new and innovative ways of getting the body involved. Any of you who like are church attenders might know, and if you're not, and any of these terms sound unfamiliar or unclear, just let me know in the comments and I'll explain all of it. But basically, since I'm going on this trip next month, I thought it might be nice to have a little wrap with me to take, because it tends to get chilly in these places and I'm cold everywhere I go anyway, so that is nothing new. So that's me trying to like burn through some stash and at the same time serve a purpose, because yeah, that's good. So that is my current work in progress, although I have like 2 other commission knits that I'm working on. Left those downstairs. I'll show you those like next week, because I'm sure they won't be quite finished yet. So this wouldn't be an episode of Knitting in the Way if I didn't show you a Hoe of Witness pass. And for those of you who've never watched the podcast before, it is a half object of Witness, right? So work in progress, past. And so this week, I don't even have this in Ravelry. Like, I don't know where this came from. I know where it came from, but I don't know where it came from. Don't laugh, you guys, or laugh your hearts out. You guys, this giant sock, I have no clue when I started this. And yes, in classic Jamie form, there is one sock. I don't know where the other sock is. I never started it because this one's still on the needles. And I don't know where this yarn came from. I don't even know what this is. It must not be fingering weight. I'm guessing it might be a DK weight because I'm knitting it on what looks to be bigger needles than I would normally do vanilla socks with, or socks with in general. So if any of you know what this yarn is, let me know. Put it in the comments below, because I have not a clue. I know I told you the Hermione's Everyday socks that were a former Hoe of Witness pass I would finish sometime this year. I imagine I'll get around to these sometime this year too. I don't know. I'm a little bit afraid of promising you that, but yeah, here's one of my Hoes of Witness pass. Okay. So, you know, there's always the same Hoe of Witness pass since this show began, but I'm still dedicated and I don't stop believing. I'm gonna finish this thing. It is the hexagon blanket, but because I have... Sorry for the rude puppies. They don't have any home training. Back to the hexagon blanket before we so rudely interrupted by puppies. Because my husband watches the podcast, he made me work on this week. So I did get 4 new hexagons sewed onto the blanket. So every week I do expect to have something for you now that my husband is cracking that whip. Crack that whip. Sorry, you guys know there's a song for everything. So yeah, so that is my Hoe of Witness pass, along with that mystery sock from God knows where. Alrighty, and now it's time for new stash. Who this? So new stash this week is not yarn. Because I am getting into sewing now, I have this new habit of looking in the remnants whenever I go to a craft store or Walmart or whatever. So this week, here's my new stash. It's Mickey. Oh boy. So, and I feel like this is like some kind of passive aggressive Mickey print. Like Mickey, somebody pushed Mickey's buttons because he says, nice is not the same as wimpy. Okay, Mickey, I hear you. And he says, oh gosh, I couldn't live on that. I don't know. I don't know who who tried it with Mickey, but someone did, and yeah, gee whiz. He's not taking it. So that's my new stash, and I think I'm gonna make a bag with this. So this will probably end up being the body of the bag. And then I'm gonna use these polka dots that my friend gave me, maybe for the liner, but maybe for the accent. And then of course the green, because as you can see, the green kind of ties into the little comic-y background of Mickey. So yeah, I don't know when that bag will be completed, but I think that will be a bag at some point. So that is my new stash. Who it is? And finally, on to the rando section, because there's always got to be some randomness. Always, always. Last week, when I showed you guys my Star Wars fabric, I told you that I had a kit, a little crochet kit that someone brought and dropped off at church for me. I still don't know who that was. So if by chance one of you fabulous new lifers is watching this and you know who brought this to me, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to thank them personally. But if not, anyways, I wanted to show you guys the kit. So you guys can see it's a nice little kit from one of the newer movies. And when I say newer, I mean like not from when I was a kid, like not from the 70s, but like from, you know, the last few years, from episode 7, The Force Awakens. I read that. So yeah, I've seen all of them, but I'm one of those weird people that like my favorite Star Wars movies are the ones that had Anakin in them. And also I do like The Last Jedi. That's kind of up there as my favorite as well. So yeah, so that's gonna be completed at some point in someone's lifetime, maybe mine. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so that's one random thing. The next random thing is, you guys, I had a knitting student. I had the pleasure of teaching a 15-year-old girl. She's almost 16. She'll be 16 at the end of the month. I had the pleasure of teaching her how to knit yesterday, so I'll insert some video here of her doing her thing. It was so cool, such a cool experience. I've only ever showed like my sons how to knit, and it didn't take. So I kind of thought maybe I wasn't a great knitting teacher, and still I'm probably not a great knitting teacher, but apparently I can show someone their way around a pair of knitting needles, because that girl rocked it. So shout out to her. I won't tell her name because I don't like to tell little people's names. And by little people, I mean people who are not old enough to vote without their parents' permission. So that's her knitting up there and being fabulous, and I'm so proud of her, and I look forward to teaching more people of all ages how to knit in the future, if that is a thing. So if you are in my area and you happen to be watching this, because I don't know, maybe because you love me, in which case thank you, and I love you too. But anyways, if you want to learn how to knit, then you should let me know below and I'll hook you up. Okay, so my last bit of randomness is that I decided that the last podcast of every month would feature some sort of de-stash, because as I mentioned before, when I went through all my yarn, holy moly, there was a lot of yarn, and some of it is stuff that I don't see myself knitting with in the near future, and that yarn really deserves to be loved and to be used by someone. And I'm gonna Marie Kondo it, if you will, and it's not sparking joy for me at this instant, and it might spark joy for someone else. So I don't know if I'm gonna de-stash in the way that I'm gonna sell it, or if I'm gonna offer it for trade, but either way, I'll show it here on the podcast and link whatever method I determine at that time below. Oh, one more thing. Almost forgot this. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Happy Knitter. I'm gonna put her link right there to her channel. She is amazing. She's got a great podcast. She's super, super supportive and encouraging. And I definitely encourage you to check her out. She does her knitting podcast with her son, which, you guys, it makes my heart just smile so big. I told her this myself too, but it really, really just is amazing to see in 2019 a teenager getting along with his mom, because I know like that's not culturally the norm, but it should be. That is it for this week, you guys. I am so tired of adulting today. I almost didn't record, but I knew I can't, I have to get through the month. My goal is to not miss a single week. So I don't know what we're gonna do next month when I go on that trip. I'll probably either record in advance or just throw up a live or something like that from my hotel room. That's probably the easiest thing to do. But yeah, I don't wanna miss. I don't wanna set that precedent because I'm doing new things in 2019. Discipline is the thing. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Share it with a knitting friend or even a non-knitting friend. Subscribe, and of course, turn on notifications if you want to know when this stuff comes up. I'd love it if you would hook up with me on Ravelry. I've got to hook up with a few of you. Thank you again for watching. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week. Bye. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I thank you for watching because I just said that.